The 2512 rated Suleymenov, Alisher Suleymenov from Kazakhstan, the 23-year-old, played a brilliant game here and finished off, crushed Magnus Carlsen. This is where he sacrificed a piece, and then he sacrificed an exchange. So he's a full rook down, but after king moves knight d4, knight d6 a threat. So Carlsen has to give back the knight. And now the finish. Knight comes to f5, bishop takes pawn. Queen can't take because of knight e7. Bishop goes back, and now bishop check, king moves, and here comes the Morphy-like finish. Knight h6, threatening mate and threatening knight f7 discovered attacks. And here Carlsen resigned. This is the moment where Alisher plays knight to h6 and Carlsen resigns. The bishop gave a check, the king moved to the corner, and now it is Suleymanov's move. And he plays knight h6. Threatening queen takes bishop, threatening knight f7. And Carlsen has no defense. Now there's an interesting moment when Carlsen resigns. He looks at Alisher's watch. He still has that in his mind. Just wait a sec. And here you go. You see that? If I go a little bit back and play it with slow speed, just a sec. And there you go. He looks at the watch. So it shows that Carlsen still had that in his mind about the watch that Alisher was wearing. Right after the match, with just a few minutes afterwards, not even half an hour, Magnus Carlsen took to X, and these were the two tweets he had put out. First one, I was completely crushed in my game today. This is not to accuse my opponent of anything, who played an amazing game and deserved to win. But honestly, as soon as I saw my opponent was wearing a watch early in the game, I lost my ability to concentrate. I obviously take responsibility for my inability to deal with those thoughts properly, but it's also incredibly frustrating to see organizers still not taking anti cheating seriously at all. No transmission delay, spectators walking around the playing hall with smartphones. So, next thing people would ask was, didn't you ask an arbiter? So then he tweeted, I did ask an arbiter during the game whether watches were allowed, and he clarified that smartwatches were banned, but not analog watches. This seems to be against FIDE rules for events of this stature. So FIDE is actually listed watches completely, not just analog, not just electronic smartwatches, watches completely as in the banned list of items in a tournament hall. But the arbiter did not enforce that rule. So after this, within no time, we had our streamers in YouTube, Hikaru and Gotham Chess, put out videos about this new controversy. And Magnus was not happy with Hikaru's title. Hikaru's video was Magnus loses and then accuses, with a lot of question marks and exclamatory marks. Magnus was unhappy. Just to be clear, I'm not accusing my opponent today of cheating. Constantly using my name for clicks is fine, but this is just lame. Do better. And see what Hikaru replied to that tweet. Okay, Gotham had made an even more provocative title, New Chess Cheating Scandal. Hikaru's had even a watch over here, Rolex. Hikaru did not react to Magnus's tweet, like not particularly clearly. He just was sarcastic about it. At least we know my YouTube recaps are good enough for the world number one to watch. And then he moved on to the next round. So that was that. And now what we need to look at is the accusation itself. Was the watch that he was wearing, that Alisher was wearing, the reason for him winning the game? So we have some interesting investigative work done by some users, and here it is. It seems that Alisher Suleymanov was constantly touching and clicking the watch before important moments. Actually, we have here a Twitter user who has compiled all the 28 times in chronological order of Suleymanov touching or clicking his watch. Let's just check it out for a bit. Let's check the last one, 28th. Okay, maybe more obvious one. 26, 25. Okay, this one. Triple click. The 20, which one is it? 19th time. Let's have a look.
We discussed before. Yeah. Do you know much about Suleymanov as a player? Is he like aggressive? He's okay, just like another young people or players these days, yeah. He's a calculator for sure. And I don't know much about his playing style, but I know that his calculation is just so great. He won the zonals back in April or May this year, and then those he was qualified for the World Cup. But then shortly after that, like a few days after that, he was playing in the Asian Continental, and he actually qualified.
So that was 3 times. And then this one, where it actually disturbs Carlsen.
Is it?
Are you sure?
No, I'm not. I mean, that's the problem. I'm not sure of anything. This position. It must be. If you ask me, like, Mir, what's your intuition? Like, white win.
You can see that Carlsen was disturbed a little by it, and then he looks up into the crowd. Let's see a little before. Okay, this one seems interesting.
The king f7, take on d5.
Yeah.
And if or when black takes, doesn't matter what he does it with, we sacrifice again. So he makes it the king f7,
Okay, if you
take
see
on
here,
d5.
Yeah.
And if or when black takes, doesn't matter what he does it with, we sacrifice again. So he makes it.
Okay, one more.
Do we have a discussion on this one? I mean, yeah, like just look how terrible.
So it doesn't mean that he had an electronic device there. I mean, probably not. It looks like a very normal analog watch, but constantly clicking. You can understand why Carlsen was paranoid about it. For someone who has already been afraid of cheaters for the past year, this can seem like a distraction. And it doesn't mean that he was doing it intentionally. It could just be like a nervous tick or a habitual thing that they do. But watches are not allowed, right? No matter whether it is analog, it doesn't matter. Watches are not allowed in tournaments, even in small tournaments that are federated. So after Carlsen's concerns were like raised, the tournament organizers before the next round introduce some new measures, new security measures to ensure that such problems never are raised. This was just before the third round today. Accessing the playing hall. Accredited people are reminded to wear the badge at all the time while in the playing hall. Players will receive a color token, blah blah blah. Spectators shall remain in the stadium stands and in no way enter the areas restricted to players. Ground floor. Now the main changes. Games are broadcasted with a 15-minute delay, which was not there yesterday, which is what Carlsen was not happy about. The refreshment area and toilets are exclusively reserved to the players and arbiters, to the exclusion of any other participants. After the first 10 minutes of the game, only authorized personnel may carry a phone when an area is restricted to the players and shall not use it in the playing area and refreshment area. Pens that are provided for the games by the organizer are expected to be used and left at the board at the end of each game. We can't even bring pens to the tournament hall today. We as in the place. Items that trigger the security scanners during checks at the entrance of the playing venue. Example, pens, wallets, watches. None of the three allowed. May have to be left at the security checkpoint. Players who have finished their game shall leave the restricted area. If they wish so, they may access areas reserved to the spectators, respecting corresponding procedures. So everything is on track. I mean, it could have been exercised from the first round itself, but at least they have started enforcing it from the third round. So no more will these problems appear in the games. It'll be interesting to see how Suleymenov plays the next few rounds, how this affects Suleymenov. The accusation. It was not an outright accusation, but it still was. I mean, you can see how it can be perceived. And let's see how the tournament goes for both players, Carlsen and Suleymenov.